everyone, it's Nora from Nora's Arc here, and it's July 8th. It's an exciting day because today we are harvesting all of our garlic. So we garden in southern Wisconsin here in zone 5A, and we have 200 heads of garlic planted in these two 32 square foot beds. So a lot of garlic in a small space, and this is enough garlic to feed our entire family for the entire year. So it's a really exciting day. We planted this back on October 22nd, so it's almost been 9 months. So we are so excited to get this harvested. Today we're going to be talking about signs to look out for so that you know when to harvest your garlic, how to harvest it, and then also what to do with it after you harvest it. So let's get into it. All right, so first let's talk about the signs to look for so that you know it's time to harvest your garlic. So the first sign that we have is we harvested our scapes about 3 weeks ago. And if you don't know what scapes are, we did a video on that, and I'll include a link in the description. But once you harvest your scapes, you'll want to harvest your garlic about 3 to 4 weeks after that. So we know that timing is up. And then something else to look for is they say if 2/3 of the leaves have died back. And then that's kind of hard to know because you can see how some of these are really died back, so it's hard to know, is that 2/3? I've also read that people say 50%, but then something else I was reading this morning that was kind of helpful is they said if you have 5 green leaves left. So this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 5 green leaves left, so we know this one is pretty ready to harvest. But you'll notice too that we kind of have varying degrees of that, so we have some, like over here, this guy is completely died back, so he's definitely ready to harvest. Which that also leads me to, we did a test harvest. During the week, we harvested 2 of our bulbs, and we did some of the ones that were really died back like this, and they were definitely ready. They were actually almost had been in the ground a little bit too long. We'll show you kind of what that looks like later, but that's something to look out for. So now that we know what to look for, let's talk about actually harvesting the bulbs. All right, so let's get into actually harvesting the garlic. We picked this one because, like I just mentioned, it has about 5 green leaves left, so we thought it'd be a good candidate to show you the first harvest. So a couple things to keep in mind is you really want to do this slow and be patient because you want to dig up a lot of the dirt around the bulb and figure out where it is. And the reason I say do it slow and be patient is because you don't want to accidentally hit the bulb with your shovel. It's really important to keep the bulbs intact and in good shape, so that way they'll be ideal candidates for harvest, or for storage, I should say. So that's why you really want to be careful when you do this. And then another thing is you really want to loosen up the dirt around the bulb and figure out where it is, so that way you can get it out of the ground without damaging any part of the stem. The stem is also important to keep intact and in good shape for the curing process, which we'll talk about later in the video. So now that I've loosened up a lot of this dirt around here, I'm going to try to just get this shovel underneath the clove and kind of push it out versus pulling it up from the stem, because then that would damage the stem as well. It could fall off and we don't want that. Hopefully this is a good one. Kind of pop it out like that. And this one looks really nice. Kind of show it up in the camera. This one looks really awesome. It looks like we've had the cloves form into a nice head, and I didn't damage it when I was getting it out of the ground, which I also wanted to mention that you probably will damage a couple of them, and don't be too hard on yourself. It is hard to make sure that you pull it out. So that's why I just say be patient and be very careful. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention too is we talked about this in our scape video, but normally we would let the ground dry out for 5 to 7 days before we do our big harvest. And the reason for that is it just makes it easier to get the dirt out. And then also it kind of helps it so that way your cloves or your bulbs are cleaner when you get them out of the ground, so there's not as much mud on them. But Mother Nature had other plans for us. It rained like 1.5 inches this week, even though it hasn't rained in like a month. So you know what, we're not gonna complain about it because we needed rain, and it's just funny. Mother Nature had other plans for us. But just wanted to say that with gardening, you just adapt, be resilient, and things don't always go to plan. So we're still going to harvest all this garlic today because it needs to come out of the ground. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna harvest the rest of this, and then we'll check in with you guys once we have our harvest all laid out. That one's pretty big.
There's some good worms in there.
It only took us 15 minutes to do that half, so we're on track to have this done in an hour.
Nice.
Nice. We still got a little one. We got all of our garlic harvested and it looks amazing. We actually harvested all of this garlic, so almost 200 heads of garlic in just 1 hour. So it's pretty crazy. Once we got into our groove and we got going, it went pretty fast. So we're pretty proud of ourselves on that. And the other thing we're pretty proud of ourselves on is that we didn't hit any of the heads of garlic with our shovel. So how I was talking about, you want to be careful, make sure you don't hit any of the heads. We ended up not hitting any of them with our shovel, which has never happened before, so we're pretty proud of ourselves. So now what I want to talk about is just how a couple different heads look, just so you know what to look for. So this one looks really, really good. The cloves are formed and they're not separated, and this is definitely a good candidate for storage. So you want to use your best heads of garlic for storage. One that maybe doesn't look as good, and we probably won't use it for storage, we'll probably just eat it right away, is this elephant garlic. And as I was showing you in the beginning of the video, how like all of these leaves had died back, which gave us an indicator that it probably went too long. And we also know that it kind of went too long because the cloves are starting to like separate out of the head, and it has these little bulbils, I think they call them, that are trying to plant another plant of garlic, and you don't want that to happen. So these went a little bit too long, but that's okay because we'll just eat them right away rather than storing them long term. And then another garlic that I wanted to show you was these ones. which are like the single clove of garlic. They call them a monobulb. And they say that you're actually like really lucky to get these because people actually try to grow them this way. So it's pretty cool. We're happy about this. And the reason that it's cool is because you don't have to peel the single cloves. You can just take off the paper and then chop up that monobulb, as they call it. One other thing that I wanted to mention is you might be wondering why we have them on the table like this. The reason is because we like to look at all of them and kind of investigate what they look like, see them all laying out on the table. And then you'll notice we have this tape here that's separated the tables out. And what we did is we did a fertilizer soak on half of our garlic this year. And the reason we only did it on half of it is because we've never done that before. So we wanted to do it on half of it and not do the other half and see how it turned out. We did a video on that fertilizer soak, and I'll include a link in the description to that. And I'll also include a link in the description to our whole playlist of all the different videos that we have on growing garlic. But anyway, how did that experiment turn out? Well, we think it turned out really good because we definitely think these bulbs are bigger than these ones. So again, these ones were the ones that we soaked. These are the unsoaked ones, and we can definitely tell a difference in size. I'll show you two of them, like these two. You can definitely tell that this one is bigger than that one. So this was a soaked one and this was an unsoaked one. Also, we're definitely just gonna do that to all of our garlic next year because it doesn't cost that much money to do and it doesn't take that much time. And there's a lot of benefits to doing it. You don't just get bigger bulbs, but also they say it helps with like mold growth during the curing process, which is what we're gonna talk about next. So now that we have all this harvested, we're gonna move into the curing process. And essentially that just means that we're drying our garlic out to prepare it for storage. And PSA, do not rinse your garlic off once you pull it out of the ground. You don't want to like rinse this dirt off because we want our garlic to dry out. We don't want to get it more wet. And once it goes through that curing process, it'll be really easy to just brush this dirt off because it'll be really dry. So we'll do a video on that as well in about 2 to 3 weeks where we'll show you how we actually prepare this for storage after the curing process is done. But anyways, more on the curing process is what we do is we lay these out, we give them some good spacing. We have a baker's rack in our garage that we put them on, and we have a window right next to that baker's rack, and that's important because you want good ventilation. And then the other reason that we do it in our garage is because you want to keep them out of the sunlight. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to put all of these on our baker's rack in our garage and let them dry out for about 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll know it's done, the curing process is done, once all of these green leaves have turned yellow. So that's a good indicator, and that's another reason that you want to keep the stem on, and you don't want to break it off when you're harvesting your garlic. So that's what we're going to do now, and we'll check back in with you guys in about 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll show you how we clean our garlic off after it's done curing.